Hello, welcome back to Together We Feel this week. Yeah, it's not Monday, it's Wednesday because we had Memorial Day here in the United States on Monday. And so I decided not to pull people out of their lakes or swimming pools or the ocean or their backyard barbecue or wherever it is they were watching baseball. I had a veteran, honoring those that have fought for us and lost their lives, all the meaningful ways we try to find to honor those people that this day is for. I'm like, nope, we're going to let them be. And we're going to come in on Wednesday this week with this conversation. It's a timely conversation and it's intentional because we are going here in the Northern Hemisphere. We are going into summer, and summer brings up all kinds of conversations about what we feel comfortable in, what we feel safe in, all of our opinions about ourselves. And unfortunately, everybody else that sometimes bleed out in really unhealthy ways. And we want to, if any of you know that have been following me for a while, I am not afraid to have the conversation on here we've been told not to talk about, but that we need to talk about because it's getting in the way of us living our healthiest lives. So we're going to talk about no more commenting on other people's bodies today with Jana Weston and Kim Mosman here are joining me. They've got their own backgrounds and experiences in this arena, but I think it's really important that we have the baseline understanding of what is kind, what is empathetic, and that starts with ourselves. Because so many times when these comments come from people about other people's bodies, it's really coming from the source of their own, not a healthy connection with their own body. Or sometimes some people, they just aren't self-aware. Not everybody's body works the same. It's this assumption that we have, if you just do this and you just do that, then you will look a certain way is not true. We're all built differently. We're all wired differently. Our bodies process things differently. And not just and there's the mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, financial, sexual health aspect that feeds into how our bodies process food and movement. I mean, it's a multi-layered topic. So I wanted to it's not the first time I've had a discussion like this on my platform, but it's been a while. I'm like, you know what? It's right after Memorial Day. It's time to have this conversation again. So Jana and Kim, welcome. I'm so glad to have you here. I appreciate you guys taking the time to do this with me. Kim has been on with me multiple times. Jana is a new friend that I've met in the last year here in Fresno. She's got her own podcast. She's going to be on a podcast with me. And she's got her own journey with this, as does Kim. And if it's your first time, you're going to get to learn more from them, and their resources will be here in the show notes. You can also find their resources on our website from their times that they've visited with me on the podcast. And we'll talk about that more at the end. But to get this thing started, like I said, I think this is such an important conversation. I grew up in an environment surrounded by people that felt like it was okay to comment on other people's bodies all the time in really inappropriate ways. And just being totally honest, I'm like, that was kind of perplexing to me because these people weren't appearing on the front of anybody's Sports Illustrated magazine anytime soon. They were not models of what we consider health. And I'm not talking about weight, I'm talking about movement and a movement of their bodies, but also movement of their lives and their relationships and how they connect with people. So this came from a very judgmental place. And I was just surrounded by it. And was just amazed by it. Why do you think it's okay to do that? What is happening here? And I just was, and just the comments they would even make to me as I was growing up and to others in the family. And even as I got older, I remember when I turned 40 and one of these family members, I hadn't seen them in been a while. I don't live near where I grew up anymore. And they're like, oh, wow, well, you look good for your age. I'm like, 40? What does that mean? And I had a younger brother that had a heyday with that. He said, "Whoa, you look good for me," because I was just like, that was awfully audacious coming from you or anybody. And it was just so off-putting that we have this idea of what ages look like or what sizes look like. Because when we talk about commenting on people's bodies, the first thing we think of is weight, whether it's we comment on people's size being what we or others think is too big or too small. But there's so many other factors into it too. There's the age piece. There's the what we wear clothing wise piece. There is the size of your eyes, your nose, your mouth, the pigment of your skin, your hair. There's just so many things that go into it. And every time I hear somebody comment on somebody else's body, I just have always been like, why do we think this is okay? But I also, we can't control what other people do. And so within that, what I've learned is like, if you have a healthy relationship with yourself and with your body, and that she's for you, not against you, and that you see her as working on your behalf, with all the challenges that can come with that, because nobody's body is perfect. We all have bumps in the road that we hit. Then that really kind of overrides or minimizes the impact of these others' comments. And also, I will tell you, it's perfectly okay for you to say, I appreciate that that's your opinion, and also please don't comment on my body or anybody else's. I just don't think that is a very kind thing to do. I have done that before on behalf of other people, because the mama bear in me came out. It happened with one of my daughter's friends one time, and I couldn't stand it. I just was like, you have any idea the impact that has on somebody? And so this is a hot topic conversation, of course. So I'm going to start with Jana. She's new here on our platform, not new to me, but I want to give you a chance to share why, when I reached out to you, why you wanted to be part of this conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I wanted to be part of this conversation because I think as a dietitian, there's a lens through the professional aspect that I can share, and also personal experience with this. And I want to start first with my personal experience because it lends to why I see it this way through the professional aspect too, and just with literally the thousands of women that I hear and have conversations with that share these things with me. Yeah. And I remember it was probably my senior year going into my first year of college. I was really struggling with my weight and also just with health. I had a lot of GI problems, constantly in and out of doctors' offices, was actually hospitalized. Like, it was not a fun time. Yeah. And with that, I stopped eating. So anything that I was eating was just upsetting my stomach. And so I started restricting. I was barely eating 500 calories a day and was miserable, but I was losing weight. And everyone was like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? You look great. Like, tell me, what diet are you doing? And that was the moment where I thought, this is so fucked up. Like, this is messed up to a T, because I, the person, was feeling horrible. I was at my worst level of health, if you will. But everyone was applauding me because I was losing weight and they wanted to know what I was doing. And that just started to really mess me up just internally, because I was someone that had struggled with my weight my entire, like, from, I went on my first diet around 11, Weight Watchers. And then I was senior in high school going into college. So huge transition, huge, like, I don't know what's happening with my body, all these things. And now, because I was losing weight, it was like I was acceptable, right? And so that just started to really change the lens in which I saw health, because I was personally experiencing it.
Wow. Boy, talking about commenting on people's bodies, that's why it's just like, just don't assume because someone shows up a certain way that automatically means they're healthy or unhealthy. Like, there's so much you don't know about the conversation. And that's why I'm like, and Rachel and I talked about this for the very first time even before we met you, Kim, where it's like, shut the heck up about people's bodies. Just keep your thoughts to yourself. If this is, you practice it in your head. I used to tell my kids, practice it in your head. How does that sound? Is that something you'd want somebody to say to you? If it isn't, shh. And that goes for adults more so than it does kids so many times. That is, man, that is such a big thing of what it does to us. You're like, I am physically ill. And yet no one's asked me, hey, I've noticed some trends, if you're going to say, I've noticed some transitions. How are you feeling? How is your health? I mean, there's just, if you insist on being curious about it, it's okay to be curious if you're kind, but remember but we have got this idea and culture about what, especially women, I think women feel it more than men, although men feel it too. I mean, this is a conversation my husband and I have had many times throughout life as the scale has fluctuated. But it's like you have no idea what you're doing or saying, what that does to people. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think, Melissa, there's so much judgment and assumption, right? So the assumption is, and we'll keep it just to the weight aspect, right? Because we're seeing this big time with skinny culture coming back in with a lot of GLP-1 use, right? Like, so we're seeing this, and also with social media. So there's an assumption that if someone is losing weight or if they're thin, that everything in their life is going well, right? And then there's another assumption that if you are a little bit heavier or you don't fit the societal protocol of what a woman should look like, then you must not have things under control and something's wrong with you. So there's big societal assumptions that we have when we look at a woman, and again, strictly focused in on her weight, without that curiosity of saying like, hey, how are you really doing, right? Like, because that weight has very little to do with someone's health. I see this all the time as a dietitian. I work with individuals struggling with their weight on both sides, right? Like, so let's just use the clinical terms of obesity, but also I work with individuals that, have a diagnosis of anorexia. Struggling, right? So we have to take that equation and just focus in on the person and their health, which again has very little to do with a number on the scale when we're really looking at its true definition.
Yeah. We're going to come back to that number on a scale piece. Thank you, though, for letting us know why you wanted to be here. And Kim, and we'll be back to you. There's so many more questions I have. Kim, tell me why you wanted to be here.
I think this has been my focus and my drive for 15 years. I opened the gym because, for those of you who don't know me, I owned a small boutique gym, and I opened it just because I caught the fitness bug. I finally felt really great about myself after having kids and feeling that middle-aged mom frumpiness, and I just didn't love myself. And I started a new exercise program, and I started focusing on whole foods and doing good things for me. And I caught the bug. And so, I became a personal trainer, and I became a nutrition coach. And unlike Jana, who can work with people in a clinical environment, I was just an accountability person. They received their walking orders from their doctor or their dietitian. And then I was the friend who, they could come and talk to, and, hey, I did this today. But in the gym environment, it was so hard for me because I, as their coach and as their instructor, could see these wonderful things happening to them, right? I could see their bodies changing. I could see their strength improving. I could see that my patients who were on lots of meds are all of a sudden getting woozy out there because now they've hit like week 3 or week 4 of really taking care of themselves, and they needed to go in and see their doctor and maybe have their dosages changed a little bit. I mean, I saw the good things, but my clients and my gym members did not see the good things because they're so focused on what the end goal is, right? And the end goal is, I don't know, my prom dress or my wedding dress or that size or, what they weighed when, they were 10. I don't know, but it was always, Jana said, it was just so messed up. Because these people are finally doing things that are so good for them, and yet they still weren't enough. And they weren't enough partially because of what society tells them, but also what they had learned simply by watching their moms or their aunts or their sisters, and this expectation they had from themselves that they weren't enough. And,
Mm.
the gym years were great years, and I feel like I became a really strong coach. But then I closed the gym about the same time I went through menopause, and my body went bonkers. And here I am, the woman with knowledge, the woman with an understanding, the woman who had been everybody else's cheerleader. And I was spiraling out of control in my own weight gain, in my own frustration with myself. And
Mm.
through it all, I'd have people who were naturally small in the gym, standing in front of a mirror going, "Oh my gosh, I'm so fat. Oh my gosh, I ate pizza this weekend." Ugh. And I had to gently pull them aside, like you said, and be like, "Okay, I want you to look at you and how beautiful you are." And yet there's a woman across the room who weighs 2 times what you do, and she hates herself already. And here she is watching her ideal person think that they're
Mm.
not enough. It's just
Mm.
sick of, I mean, like, focus on yourself. Love yourself first and quit
Yeah.
talking about other people.
Yeah. And also, but just, combating this garbage that we hear that we've been got to start getting inundated with when we're very young girls. I mean,
Yeah.
we start seeing it on the magazine covers, and now there's the whole social media piece of it. But the conversations, I think, really, start at home when you're young about how you're talked to about food, how you
Mhm.
see people connect with food and relate to food, how you understand food serves your body. And sometimes when you don't have a relationship with it that's healthy, or a food that doesn't agree with you back. I mean, I have friends that have Hashimoto's and different things where they have to be really mindful and kind of relearn their connection with that. But this garbage idea, and it's been around for generations, and I sadly don't see it going anywhere, which why is this conversation is so important, that there is a number or a size. And I will say, I think a lot of Western medicine doctors do us a disservice the way they talk to us about our bodies and our weight. And it's necessary for them to have a relationship with somebody like Jana and be like, okay, we're going to help you, you know, connect with your relationship with food in a healthy way. We're going to help you move your body in a healthy way. With Kim, you were doing the same thing. We're going to talk about these things, what it works for you, the uniqueness and specialness of your body. But it's that value piece. I mean, I started hearing my sophomore year in high school when I was, full-fledged in puberty and all that. My dad's, I was a track runner and soccer player and all that in high school. And my dad started telling me that my butt was getting too big. And coming from my dad, I'm 16 years old. Well, your butt's getting too big. You're not. And I'm like, actually, a sprinter's supposed to have a big butt, but that's whatever. Big, whatever big is. I mean, I look back at my butt at that tiny little age, my 100, I was just like, not an ounce of, I'm just like, I can't believe I was so hard on her. And also I can't because of what I was hearing. I wasn't surrounded by women who had a good relationship with their bodies or food. I was surrounded by women who used food as an emotional thing to deal with, but then would do these binge diets. And diet pills were a big thing in the 80s. That was starting to be a big thing. Like, I knew so many girls in my high school that were this big around taking diet pills, which was just speed, essentially. I mean, it was just awful. I mean, really, really awful. So this is something I've watched my whole life. And I think, and we all have. And so, Jana, when someone walks in your office and you know from your own experience already, all that we bring in, we finally like, I've got to get some help. I've got to get some direction. Where do you start with them?
Great question. So I usually try to explore the intentionality of what is prompting them to, because typically most individuals are referred for weight loss.
Okay.
And so it's exploring what is prompting this desire to lose weight. So I really want to understand what's behind that. And most of us are not asked that, right? Like, it's just like, oh, well, there's like this assumption that, oh, of course you want to lose weight. It's kind of like a woman experience, especially, you know, at the first of the year, you know, getting ready for a vacation, a wedding, a summer, right? Like, it's like no one kind of questions that. But when we go and dive a little bit deeper and start to understand like what's the intention behind it, we get a completely new story. And that's where I really like to start, because like Kim said, a lot of women, the intention behind weight loss is, I just want to feel enough. Like, I want to feel like I'm a good mom. I want to feel like I'm a good wife. I want to feel like I'm a good employee. I want to feel good enough. And also, like, usually, and it generationally, we look at this too of, what do you need? Like, what have you not been expressing that you really need? Like, do you need a break? Do you need a vacation? Do you need to not be, you know, in mom mode and just like chill the F out, right? Like, what do you need? And so a lot of women, particularly, I would say between like 45 and 65, start exploring what their needs actually look like. So it's been acceptable to say, I need to lose weight, right? Like, that's actually really acceptable to say. It's not acceptable to say, that's a boundary that you crossed, and I'm no longer, like, that's not acceptable to me that you are crossing that boundary, right? Like, so again, it's where does the conversation go? So usually when we start exploring that, it allows for, in my opinion, a much more rich conversation to really understand, like, how can, and this is my big thing, like, how can I best support the individual so they feel healthy, confident, and strong? Like, and that is very different for each person. But when we understand what's behind that, it allows us to then, you know, go into goal setting or really see like what they need in that moment.
Yeah. I can't even tell you the amount of times I've had this conversation with women over the almost 5 years now, that no one's ever asked them what they need, that they've never felt the freedom or the permission, or that anyone even cared enough to hear. And that taking that ownership of like, I care enough to hear. So I'm going to ask for what I need for me, whatever that looks like, whatever that boundary is, you know, 30 minutes every morning. I'm going to go outside for a walk before I come in and get everybody out the door for school, or make the lunches, or get ready for work, or whatever it is that you're doing. And, you know, start filtering in. And on my podcast, I always ask people, you know, name 5 activities that nourish you. This is also on the flyer when I work with, you know, women in groups and one-on-one, and they just look at me stunned. And it's like, well, let's start there. Let's start with those 5 things that nourish you, and those words on how you describe yourself, how you see yourself, and how you want to feel. And then let's build a plan around that. And it takes, do you feel like, Jana, it then takes it makes it a more rounded conversation. It takes the focus on, I'm going to get in here and it's all about the scale. And, you know, because what it seems like too is people think if they just eat less, and it's like, ooh, if you don't feel your body correctly, especially when you get into middle age and later, that's actually going to work against you if your body feels like it's not getting enough. So how do you talk to people about, the goal is to make sure you're fueling your body in a healthy way as we go through this process?
So I will say I make women cry. I don't know why, but usually once they've told me, like, I just feel a relief of like, you're actually listening to me. Because I typically don't weigh individuals, particularly the first, or I would say couple times that I meet with them, because we don't need to know that number on the scale to know you're struggling. Right. So clinically, that's not relevant to me at this point in time. And so when they're like, you're not going to weigh me, that really helps ultimately create trust. So my job, I believe my job is to create trust with someone in the sense that they can trust me, but more importantly, that they can trust themselves. And so that's where it allows them, like you said, that permission to just explore, like, well, what does health look like? Because health is a different conversation than weight loss. Very, very different conversation. So do you want to lose weight, or do you want to form a healthy relationship with food, your body, all those things, right? Like, so again, those nuances are very important, and remaining, like, as a practitioner, remaining curious is really helps me understand that person and the direction that they want to go. Because some people, they just want to lose weight. Cool.
Yeah.
Like that. Other people, though, when they're given the permission of, like, you don't have to lose weight, they're like, what? Like, I can still be healthy, or I can still take care of myself, and I don't have to lose weight. Like, it's shocker. So that's where the conversation can be so rich.
Yeah, I love that healthy piece. It's like, we're not going to talk about how the number on the scale. We're going to talk about you being healthy, and whatever that looks like is whatever that looks like. But what does healthy feel like to you? How do you want? I mean, I think that's just, I love that you bring that in, and that safety. I tell you, we will not see intentional, meaningful moves or shifts and how we feel about ourselves and our health if we don't feel safe, if our nervous system doesn't feel safe, if we don't know that we can trust ourselves and have someone there to remind us of that and guide us through that. So Kim, go back to you. Knowing what you know now versus what you knew then, what have you learned in this journey as you transitioned out of the gym with all these tools, but then you had to go through your journey of reconnecting with yourself? You've written a couple of books that helped you to do that. Talk about how you have gotten to where you are today, where you really are in this peaceful, settled space in this season you're in. I mean, not that life doesn't have its stuff. You've got a lot going on, but talk to me about that.
Really, I wrote about it in my book, and this practice of wells and betters that you and I have talked about a million times before, right?
Yep.
I used wells and betters when I owned restaurants, right? We'd go through a lunch rush and we'd sit with our employees and what went well and what can we do better tomorrow. And I carried that mindset into my gym. So when I had the client who was frustrated, or I'd only bring the scale out once a week, right? So I wouldn't let people kill themselves in a workout and then step on the scale. Yes.
Kimmy's wells and betters right here. I've got it.
I tried to get people to focus on, let me back up. We're never going to look in a mirror and love ourselves 100%. There's always going to be something that we see that we know we either need to work on or that we can change. I mean, for me, I always love to change my hair color because I'm going gray faster and faster by the minute, right? But the things I want to work on, right? I want to work on my muscle tone because I'm getting older, and I know the importance of that. And you can see that in the mirror. You can see the lack of work, and you can also see the proof of work. So as I've grown older, and as I've worked through this myself, and as I've come to a place in my life where I believe that I am a daughter of God and He loves me no matter what, and therefore I should love myself, right? I'm going to gain weight. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to fall into lazy periods, and I'm going to fall into active periods. But I have to love her all the time. And so I still, every morning when I get up and I first look, there she is, and it's like, what do I love about her? And that was something that I learned very quickly in the gym. I had a question on my entry form that said, name 3 things you love about yourself. And it was always the question that was left blank. Always. And it breaks my heart that someone can't look at themselves and at least say, I love my haircut. I mean, like they're not looking at themselves with love. And I think that's where all this comes from. You pointed right back to, why do we talk poorly about other people? It's because we can't see the good in ourselves. It's because we're not talking good to ourselves. We don't have that practice. And so I look, and 3 things. What do I love about myself today? And what are 3 things I'm going to work on today? And it's not always what I can see. Sometimes it's my water was lacking yesterday, so I'm going to really be intentional about how much water I'm drinking. Or, I can't remember if I ate anything that grew on a tree yesterday. So I'm going to focus on my fruits and vegetables today. Whatever the case may be, but in being intentional with myself, I'm able to walk out into the world, and I'm able to see you and say, oh my gosh, that dress looks great on you today. And it has nothing at all to do with the fact that maybe I noticed that you've lost some weight or you've been working out but the dress looks great on you because you're carrying it and you look confident and you're beautiful. And so I not only tell myself, but I tell you. And if you walk by me and I don't say something, I'm just distracted because I'm trying to be very intentional with telling people the good things that I see. And it has nothing to do with, oh my gosh, you look great. Are you on some special diet? Because that makes me crazy.
Yes.
I went from being a woman who felt terrible about myself in my 40s and losing a lot of weight. And people thought they had the right to say, oh my gosh, are you okay? Well, yes, I'm okay. I'm working very hard every day.
Yeah.
I'm being very intentional, and it's none of your business. This is none of your business. Just talk to me as a person. So, that's what this whole thing has taught me. It's taught me that if I love myself, then I can love you. And in a world that is trying so hard to love itself through the GLP-1s, I have some people that I love very much that have found finally a break in life, through using a GLP-1. But as you begin to feel good about yourself, you have to remember to share it forward, right? Yeah. Just because now you're not feeling self-conscious about yourself doesn't mean that you can suddenly put that on someone else because it was done to you, right? Let's learn from how good it feels to be healthy, to feel healthy, to feel confident, and just move it forward.
Yeah. And I think too, an important part of this conversation is, what is your why behind it? For me, my why behind, I lift 3 to 4 times a week. I move my body intentionally every day. Sometimes it's, a more of an aggressive HIIT kind of workout. Sometimes it's Pilates. Sometimes it's yoga and stretching and a meaningful walk with my husband. I mean, it has different looks, but my why, I want to be strong. Right. I want to be able to carry my grandkids around someday. I want to be able to, I don't want to just live. I want to live well. I want to be present. I want to be able to go on that hike in Sequoia National Park with my kids and not be behind. I mean, so my motivation is the quality of life. I don't want to just be alive. I want to live vibrantly and well and be present and enjoy that and not be held back. It's not about the size of my clothes. It's not about the number on the scale. And I had to break up with that reality because I spent many, many years, I could eat anything I wanted to and I would not gain a pound. That I had a racing metabolism. I was a runner through college and I just didn't have to think about it until I did, until that changed. And then, it was just a wake up call as my body started shifting. I was like, I learned that she needed different things and I was going through these phases. And also I realized what an unhealthy relationship I had with food and weight. I would, I started hearing, like I said, I started hearing at 16 years old from my dad that my butt was too big. And so I had this relationship with food that I felt like I ate too much. I needed to go work out more. So much so that I gave myself an injury by my freshman year of college, where I'd blown up all the tendons in my foot from all of the secret nighttime runs I did in my bedroom after I thought I ate too much. And that my body, the number on the scale was going to be higher than people that knew nothing about medical wellness thought it should be. And how I would still oh gosh, I'm feeling really full. I better go walk an extra mile or extra time around the block. And we're like, no, stop that. No. And it wasn't until I started digging in and doing my own work of, where do these narratives come from? What is this rooted in? Who am I trying to get acceptance or approval from? The only acceptance or approval I need is from me. Right. And knowing that I'm well, and that when I'm well, then I show up well for others. And and I'm surrounding myself with people that are well. But we teach people how to treat us within that, and realizing that curiosity rather than judgment. This is a battle cry of mine. I don't know if battle's the right word, but I feel very strongly about this shift that where I start, anytime that I feel like snapping into any kind of judgment, and I'm very opinionated. So it's very natural for me to go, when I feel strongly about something, I feel strongly about it. But you're like, okay, let's snap into curiosity for a minute. Let's start asking some questions. And that really it's a work in process, but I've noticed now that, like, yes, I want to be healthy. Yes, I want my blood work to show up good ways. Yes, I know I have tendencies in my family. And also, you know what? I am not going to live. I'm going to enjoy that piece of pie on a Saturday. I'm going to enjoy that, that taking a rest that day instead of moving my body because I needed more rest. I'm going to really check in with her each day to see how she's doing and what does she need. And if it doesn't fit what's on my calendar, okay, so we shift. But I had to really take apart, like, wow, like on paper, like people would comment, oh my gosh, you look so good, you look so good, da, 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 da. And I never thought about it much until, not that it stopped, but it just was, my body shifted and changed. And I was like, oh gosh, I mean, we don't realize the impact that has on people when they decide your worth by that quick glance.
Mm-hmm.
And that, inside you, that regardless of that, your worth. I love what you said, Kim, about each morning you get up, I identify my wins every day, whatever a win is. And it can be, I allowed myself to not set the alarm this morning so that I was to that. It might look like we got to X amount, my team and I did this thing. It could look like a number of things, but the point was that I recognized the win each day and I didn't miss that. And I started getting curious about my why. Well, I shouldn't eat that. Why do I think I shouldn't eat that? I should move more. Why do I think I should move more? What's the root of that? So back to you, to Jana, on that why piece. Is that a conversation? It feels like that's probably a conversation that goes in when you start asking women what they need, what their why behind it is.
Yeah. And I want to comment on what you said too, because I think it's really powerful to delineate. If the only reason why a woman is taking care of herself to lose weight, what happens when you lose the weight? Right. So once you hit your goal weight, right, and now there's no more weight to lose, or maybe it's just 5 more pounds, right? It's like always that. Then what happens, right? And so I think that's the conversation of that expansion aspect of, so I personally don't think that weight loss is a bad thing. It's all about how we go about doing it, right? Because sometimes it can be necessary for somebody. However, if that's the only reason that you are ultimately taking care of yourself, you're going to lose at that game, because at some point it has to stop. And that's where women say they really struggle, because if now they don't lose weight, like, how do you actually maintain the results that you have achieved? And maintenance, I would actually argue, is the hardest part. Most women know how to lose weight. They've done it for most of their life, but it's maintaining those results. And that's because oftentimes that why behind why they are doing XYZ is because they need to lose the weight. So I really like to expand that conversation of, like, okay, and tell me other reasons why we would take care of you, right? Like, why still exercise even if our goal isn't to lose weight? Like, what are the barriers of exercise? What are the benefits of exercise, right? Like, what are the benefits of setting those healthy boundaries and giving yourself compassion from a mental health perspective, right? Like, what are those benefits? Like, and that's really where we can definitely expand that conversation. The other thing I wanted to say is that when we're looking at your health, it's not at the expense. So we're looking at, like, the realms of well-being, right? Like you started out with, like, okay, we have the physical health, which we typically talk about, but your physical health, ideally speaking, we don't want that to be at the expense of your emotional health or your financial health, or, right, like all these other things. And a lot of times people are spending so much money on their health that's not necessary, or are, in the name of health, they are now becoming more anxious and more depressed and more isolated because they have to follow this plan, right? Like that's not the goal of health. That's not the goal of nutrition. We actually want you to be connected. We want you to feel free with your health. And so I think that's also another area of, it's not going to, when you're losing weight or when you're taking care of yourself, it's not going to be at the expense of another area of your well-being.
I love that you brought that up, because I think there's a lot of apps out there now, and there's all these things you can measure your macros and all the, and all these things. But to a point where I found, for me, I realized I needed to get more protein and more fiber. I'm like, I'm not getting enough protein and fiber. So I was tracking it, and I got to a point for me, I'm like, I realized I was becoming a slave to the tracking. And it was the anxiety in me was just lifting up. And some people, and I needed that for a while to help me kind of shift to make sure, but I realized I know what I need now. I don't need to keep being imprisoned to this app and these minute numbers. I know in general what I need to fuel myself. And so I just like, I'm going to give myself a month off of it and just see how I feel. Oh my gosh. I felt so much better, because I wasn't like, and if for some reason I had something a little different than what I planned, I just made a shift and did something a little different the next day. And I felt so much better. I didn't realize, and I'll go back every once in a while and just kind of check in to make sure I haven't gotten too off target. But I had to realize, no, I've learned, the habit shifted, but this is impacting my ability, to connect at a meal, or to be like, oh yeah, we can go do that. Instead of thinking, no, I need 30 more, carbs and 10 more grams of fiber, and that place won't happen. I can't do that. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do that. We'll adjust. So I'm so glad. I think that's such an important conversation. Also, Kim brought up the GLP-1 piece. Her and I and Rachel have had conversations about this before. I think it's like anything. It can be a good thing until it's not. And it's the importance of having healthy habits. It's not just about, still fueling your body correctly, building muscle, building strength, and whatever it is that you're using, that maintenance piece of like, what are healthy habits that will sustain me through my life, so I can feel alive and energetic and vibrant, and not get so obsessed with a number, but more concerned with how I want to feel, how I want to show up.
I think if we could just convince people that all of these pieces are tools, right? And the tool never works the same for the three of us. We could all do exactly the same thing and eat exactly the same foods in the same quantities and do the same workouts. And we're going to all have different responses to them. And so whether it's GLP or a meal plan or coaching or exercise or whatever it is, they're all great tools that help us figure out exactly what each of us needs personally. And, the struggle with someone who's listening probably is like, I thought they were going to talk about people like slamming other people who weigh too much or don't weigh enough or whatever. And the thing is that we all know that it starts here in ourselves, and it projects out. I love what Jana said. You don't always have to lose weight to be healthier, right?
Yeah.
And the first thing that we all learn is, if it's a business goal or if it's a financial goal, is, why? Why do you want this? But we never think about that when it's our health or our size or our weight. Having a why is important, and the why's got to be bigger than my class reunions next week, right?
Yeah.
So I think all of this is so good and so important, but how do we get out into the world and say, you don't have any business having an opinion about anyone except for yourself,
Yeah. It's a tricky one. And for me, it's like, I say all the time, you are responsible for you. You are not responsible for someone else. And what what is the benefit of, there's a big difference in, like, Kim, you said earlier, oh, that dress looks beautiful on you. You look vibrant today. I mean, there's so many ways to say things and just leave it. Oh gosh, I look vibrant today. Oh gosh, you liked my dress. There's so many ways to say things rather than following up with the next thing or assuming. My daughters play volleyball. They have friends that are very tall. They're all, I mean, my daughters are all in that 5'7" to 5'8" range, which in their athletic world wasn't very tall. And they found out when they got away from their friends that were over 6 feet tall, they're like, actually, I'm kind of tall out in the real world. But they would have these people would make these assumptions about their sizes or their identities. And so also too, making sure your identity isn't in that, like, how many times my youngest daughter's best friend has heard, oh my gosh, how tall are you? Oh my gosh, how's the weather up there? Oh my gosh, are you a basketball player? Oh my gosh, are you a model? Shut up. Leave her alone. Why do you care?
Like I had anything to do with it, right?
Yes. So it's like those things, asking yourself before you say these things, what's the benefit of this? How is this going to impact this other person? Because I think it's also important too that we don't, buy into these stereotypes and assumptions when we see people that look a certain way, that they must be a certain thing, and how it is to have to kind of continually deal with those conversations about each other's bodies and these stereotypes that we've heard about them.
Mm-hmm. And I'd be curious.
Go ahead.
I had a question for Jana. I'm just curious how many, once you ask people their why, and I'm assuming you dig a little, how many people just want someone to love them?
Oh, yeah. I would say like 99% of women, because I think there's still that 1% that's like, no, this is going to fix it. But I would say like when the conversation is actually opened up to be about more than just weight loss, every time women are like, oh my gosh, thank you. Mm-hmm. And it's just relieving to not have that pressure on them, because I would say most women have had that pressure to look a certain way since they were very young.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So Jana, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I think that's the power of this conversation and of us as individuals that, right, like we can control what we can do. And I think there's little moments that like open that door. For example, like when an individual is referred from a doctor and their doctor said, well, you need to lose weight because it's going to fix everything. And they come in and I ask, like, what brings you in today? And I've had so many individuals say, well, can't you see me? I'm fat. So many individuals. And I said, I do see you, but I don't know why you're here. Can you tell me more about that? They're so shocked that I do not, go into that conversation. And then also I've made a personal commitment that I don't comment on women's bodies. One, just because of my own experience with it, right? Like I have no freaking clue what's going on in their world unless I start having a conversation with them. And two, when you say that, you should see the look on people's faces, particularly women, of like, they like no one knows what to do, right? In the sense of like, I'll just very plainly, very calmly say, I don't comment on women's bodies. And it really does. I mean, it's a little awkward at first, but it allows maybe some other people to consider their conversation too. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where we have the power of, well, what direction do we want this, conversation to be going in, and or what conversation do you allow yourself to continue to be in? Because I know just women I work with, like, I'm not going that direction. Like I that is just such a, it's an off-putting and such a judgmental tone that really disconnects us. And frankly, a lot of women do that to other women. And I think we can start with us as women, have like, hey, if you don't like that, then you can start changing that. And so I want to just encourage other women listening in to, like, it starts with you, right? Like it always starts with us as individuals. And so we can start that so that you and other women aren't constantly being judged or compared to that standard that none of us are ever going to achieve.
Yeah. Absolutely. So good. Oh my gosh. There's so many we could talk about this for hours. Well, I want to give you each a chance to ask each other. I know, Kimmy, you've asked a question already. Gianna, do you have any questions for Kim?
Yeah, well, Kim, I would love to know like that enoughness piece. I see that so much, and it's interesting, right? Like, because I'm such a neutral party half the time, right? Like, I just want to understand, right? And everyone has different opinions, but I'm seeing this big time with perimenopause and menopause. I'm absolutely loving the conversation around women's health, and that we're actually doing research on women's health and getting women into the gym and, talking about what it looks like. And what has been your experience, particularly for like perimenopause and menopause? Like, do you feel like that conversation is really helping, or do you feel like we're going into a lens of like still not enough because you have to do all these things, particularly now that there's hormone shifts? Or like, tell me more about your like experience with that.
I think there's still a struggle. I don't think there'll ever be enough.
Mhm.
I think it's like affirmations. Okay. It's easy to put a little sticky note on the mirror. I mean, it's a great start for some people and it works for some people, but I am enough up there, and just look in the mirror and say it 10 times. But you have to get it into your heart and you have to believe it. And sometimes I think it takes more than the things we're talking about. It's developing a spiritual practice, or a journaling practice, or sometimes even just reading other people's work, or finding a coach or a dietitian or a mentor, someone to help you explore the good that's inside. Because most of the time, when a woman gets to the backside of menopause and her body has just flat out betrayed her, and I've watched it time and time again. I have the same habits. I eat the same foods, and things are just not the same. I don't have that drop 5 pounds trick that I used to have anymore. And I also have to honor my body enough that I'm not going to put it through what it could do when I was 20. I have different issues. So for me, it came through a spiritual lens. I had to come to the point where I realized that I am who I was created to be. And I'm no less worthy because I'm a size 14 or a size 22 or whatever it is than I was when I was a size 8. Our worth doesn't come from what we look like, and it doesn't come from what other people tell us. It comes from what's inside and from the relationship you have with yourself. And I think we need to be talking about it again and again and again. And those are the things we need to be saying to people. Not, oh my gosh, you look great today, but I love what you wrote, or I love the way you you light up a room. I mean, because those are things that come from the inside. Those are the things that we should be valuing. And I'm sure, I know and Melissa, I know when someone finally discovers that they love themselves, and when they see that nugget of good in them, everything changes and they want more of it. It's like when the woman finally finds the diet that makes all of her intolerances, all of the symptoms of her intolerances go away. When she finally finds that thing that makes her feel really good, and like she wants to continue. She doesn't want to go back to the old way. It's the same with all of this. We just have to get to a place. I mean, we're already the weaker sex, right? Or we're already the one that's had to work to get to where we wanted to get. But I don't believe it's always men that put us in that place, I think it's other women and it's ourselves.
Yeah.
The conversation needs to continue. I think we need to shout it louder and louder and louder again, because when a woman feels like she is enough and she's worthy of good health and and good things and advancement in her career and a good marriage. And, I think it makes all the difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, that was probably way more than you wanted when you asked the question. But
I love
passionate about this. And it's just time. It's time for us to be lifting one another up instead of knocking each other down.
Yeah. We can do so much more together.
Mhm.
And there's so much power when women come together as a group and see each other's value and understand that we all have something unique and special that we bring to the table, and that our value doesn't ebb and flow by the grayness of our hair or the size of our pants or the wrinkles on our skin or whatever that thing is. There's just so much power, but again, we've said it all. It really, and I say this all the time when I'm talking to women in the conversations I have, it starts with you. You've got to get to a place of embracing your layers and loving yourself well. Because when you can do that and bring in that curiosity rather than judgment, all of a sudden those things that you thought you needed to say or that someone had to hear don't really carry an impact anymore. You're like, you start seeing the unhealth of that. You start seeing that isn't really going to lead anywhere good for anybody. Jana, do you have any other questions for Kim?
I just have a comment. I love that you brought up the spiritual wellness aspect, because when we're talking about body image or women's bodies, it's not a physical attainment, it's a spiritual attainment. And we can't keep saying, oh, like change your diet and get into the gym and then expect someone to feel better about their body, because it is a spiritual act. So I'm so glad that you shared that.
Yeah. And it's just that, and you said it earlier, Jan, I think it's so important, is like, what happens after you lose the weight? How do you feel about you then? I mean, what is this? What is the point of getting here? And that's why I always, going back to women, say, how do you want to feel the next 6 months? What are the activities that nourish you? These are the things that make a life. And yes, there are things sometimes we have to do to make adjustments to make sure that we are healthy. Absolutely true. And also, it can't be the whole definition of our value and identity. When we do that and thinking about the impact of our words, if you're thinking about, asking someone a seemingly awkward question or making a comment about their body or appearance in any way, what's that rooted from? Get curious about that. Don't beat up on yourself or what's wrong with me. Just get curious. Go back like, what brought that up in me? What is it in me? Where did this trace? And grab a journal. Kim's got a great one. Start asking yourself questions. Take you back to that point where who modeled that for you? What is the benefit or not of that? Because so many times we've just seen things and we've heard things and we realize that's just a thought or something that was modeled to me. It doesn't make it true. Doesn't make it healthy. Doesn't make it correct. Is there something I need to unlearn here and relearn a healthier way that's a more connective way? And not a disconnected way. And that starts with that connection with ourselves. Kim, did you have any other questions for Jana?
No, I'm just so excited for you. Women, I wish more women would seek out the help of a good dietitian, of any dietitian. But I mean, someone who looks deep inside and just doesn't give them a prescription. I feel like if people could link arms with someone who taught them how to empower themselves in the health arena, there's nothing better. There's no better gift that they can give themselves. So I love the conversation, and thank you.
Okay. All right. Ladies, before we wrap this up today, any last thoughts? Jana, we'll start with you that you want to share with our listeners.
So yes, I do. I have so many thoughts in this arena, but I know we're closing out. One thing that I want to leave individuals with is, are you being your own bully? And that goes into, so a lot of women that I work with, I like to think of it, if we're working on that body image aspect of, would you share that with your granddaughter, right? So, or your daughter, right? Like, you share with yourself, would you share that with someone that you love? And usually, again, 9 times out of 10, it's just a moment for tears, because we can realize how hard and frankly that bully we are to ourselves that is not helping us whatsoever. And so if you would not share those words with your daughter or your granddaughter, why are you sharing them with you? Right? And this is just for that curiosity aspect, right? Like there's no shame in this game, right? It's just, why are we using that towards you when you already have deemed that to be unacceptable to give to your daughter or your granddaughter? So just something I want people to think about for themselves, to get curious about what is that answer and how can we start shifting that?
Yeah. Ooh, really good. Really good. Kim, how about you?
Just love yourself. Start with you. Look in the mirror, identify what you love and what you want to work on, and move forward accordingly,
And that you can do both. I think it's so important. We don't have to beat up on ourselves. We have this, I think, sometimes an unhealthy relationship with what accountability means. And accountability doesn't mean we beat ourselves to a pulp and that we're unkind to each other or to ourselves. We can both recognize the wins, identify the things we love, and hold ourselves accountable. I need to move my body today. I need to get enough water today. I need to get enough fiber today, whatever it is, because I know that fuels my body, is going to allow it, my metabolism, to do what it needs to do to move these things through. We can do both things at once. We don't have to beat up on ourselves. And my last thing is, you are valuable, you are worthy, and you get to choose. You get to choose how you live your life, the choices that you make, the things that you say. That's a choice, and honor yourself and others with those choices of that kindness. So much good here. Jana, where can people find you and follow you?
Instagram. I'm very active on Instagram at Jana Weston RD, and then also on my website, healthwins.org.
Okay. Kimmy, how about you?
I am also very active on Instagram and on Substack. I'm Kim Mosman in both places. And my website is Kim Mosman Wellness.
Okay.
Switching to Kim Mosman Coaching very soon. So just look up Kim Mosman. You'll find me.
Okay. And Mosman is Mosiman.
It is.
You also both have podcasts. You want to share where people can find your podcast? Jana, we'll start with you.
Yeah, my podcast is called Talkin' Shit. And we talk we talk about the shit that really impacts us. So we talk about it all from all realms of well-being, and really open up that conversation like you do, Melissa, to say, hey, let's actually talk about this so that we can do this in a healthy way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love that. I'll check that out. I love that.
Okay, Kim, and you've got 2 now.
I do. I have 2. The Whole Woman podcast with our friend Rachel Levin. We talk about whatever we decide to talk about for the week, or whatever's got a bug in our buns. Right now we're in the middle of a 4-week summer episode, just talking about fun things. Tomorrow's drop is about the things we can't live without. And it was so much fun. And my second podcast is called My Friend Writes, and it's an opportunity for authors and bloggers and podcasters. You got to write your scripts. Anyone who is out there communicating, to share who they are, who they were before they started, and who they are because they did. Yeah. And I have a few books on Amazon. So
yes, share those.
Yes, Reflections of Joy, Learning to Love the Woman You See While Becoming the One You're Meant to Be.
That one's over on my bookshelf.
Yep. My owner's manual is a companion journal with a lot of the ideas that I share in Reflections of Joy. And then I have some writing tools and workbooks. So
yeah. And check out the blogs too. Kim's got great blogs on her website too, from a variety of people and women. Thank you so much for how you both show up in the world. I'm so lucky to know you. And I think about this platform and the time I've spent and the women that I continually get to meet and connect with. It just affirms my belief and hope in what we can do when we come together and we have these conversations and we support each other in it, and we each bring our unique lens to the table and offer that up, because you never know which person is going to connect with us. And so all of these resources, all of these voices are necessary. And when you find another one, pull up a chair and make room at the table. I cannot emphasize the importance of that enough. Thanks so much for being with me today, ladies. I appreciate you both so much. And all of you listeners out there, remember that it starts with you. So get curious, starts with you, be kind to you, take good care of yourselves. We'll be back next week with a Come As You Are panel. We haven't had a Come As You Are in a few weeks. So we're back to Come As You Are. Last time we had a Come As You Are, my microphone wouldn't work and Aaron Copeland had to facilitate the conversation. So that was a whole adventure, but we figured it out. We showed up, we figured it out anyway. So hopefully I won't have those issues next week, but we'll be back with Come As You Are next week on Monday. Thanks so much for being with us. Take good care. Together we feel, and together we do this together in a healthy way. Remember that. Take good care. Be kind to yourselves, and we'll see you next time here on the Together We Feel panel show.